Yo, what's going on, Foot Clan here? It's the Shredder here talking about this past weekend. It was really interesting. We had the PPG this weekend, and the PPG allowed us to take a really close look at what top players were looking at. Obviously, this PPG was online, because of the quarantine and everything, and because of that, we got 35 players. You got 35 players, and these aren't just anybody's. These are just top 35 players that have topped before. You got Cody Angelo from Worlds. You got some other PPG winners and stuff like that. They were playing in this event, and it allowed us to get a look at what one players were looking at. They thought were the best decks, but you got a chance to see what were really, in theory, what players were looking at. What was in their mind a great deck to pick up or play. Obviously, some players thought that Aleph was the best deck. Not the best deck, but they thought it was the best deck to bring into an event. That being said, I always say this, that a lot of pro players lean towards a more control deck. Some players like to lean toward their style, like playing a very combo heavy deck or something that's really explosive when it goes off and the ceiling is very high. When you look at this compared to the OCG, this is a very different style. So let's talk about that first. Let's talk about the OCG compared to the TC. Then we'll talk about the results of the PPG on what this means going forward. So when you look at the OCG, they do a lot of their decks are very well designed to be very control based. And off of this graph, thanks given to us by King of the Road, we get to see out of I believe 105 decks over 15 tournaments, what were the best decks or what decks had the best success. And obviously we see with a high percentage at 17% we have Orcus, and Orcus has been in recent times the best deck for a while now over in the OCG, because it's, as a control deck, it can lean, it has a lot more versatility than the other decks do. It can go either route. You can go the Dragoons Orcus out, you can go the Sky Striker Dragoons, the Scrap Orcus, or other various styles to Orcus. And there's 18 Orcus decks that are really, you can just do so much. The next best deck over there, or the deck that has these are all represented where you have 18 Orcus, 15 Salads, 15 Thunder Dragon, 8 Sky Striker, then you have 6 Invoke, then you have 5 Cyber Dragons, then you have 4 Lift, and then 4 Spiral. And that's, if you think about that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's like the top 8 represented decks. And then you start to get into this rogue where you have a lot of pendulum variants, such as Magicians. You have Mystical Beast and Demion. You have Zephyra. You have a lot of Dragoon variants. You also have even more variants coming down to Orcus with like Dragoon, Mech Knight Orcus. You have Eldridge, Paleo Frogs. And that being said, there's this common thread that goes about in the OCG. Well, what's the difference between their metagame and our metagame? Well, their metagame has, obviously they play more control based. So let's start with a more control based kind of idea. Let's start with Orcus here. Orcus is, in my opinion, or not in my opinion, over there is the best deck. It does a lot, when it goes off, it does a lot. Over there they have a card such as Gritsu. They have a Harp still that we don't. They have very well extenders. They can, as long as you don't, I always say this, as long as you don't imperm them, they kind of go off pretty well. If you don't maxi them, they're just going to pass turn at that point if they don't have the other card that we have not had yet to get, which is Crossout Designator. Obviously, you have variants. The Dragoon variant seems to be the more popular choice. You can end on, I believe it's a Dragoon, some other interruptions and stuff like that to just really I would assume an IP, a Dragoons an IP, some Orcus cards like a Babel or Crescendo to really, play a control aspect. That's obviously like 2 or 3 interruptions right there, especially if IP Dragoons and a Babel up. That would be, in my opinion, how they would play it. I'm not sure what they like to do over there, but that seems to be the really good claim. Another card, they obviously have Vanities. That's another card. Salad has evolved into this, where here it's very Salad has evolved here to where it's centered around. Um, it's very controlled because they have Stalio still, if I remember correctly. They do, but what this deck does, they play like a lot of rank fours to just turbo through and do really big plays. I've Salad is. I've always said that Salad is technically the best control deck if you look at it compared to Striker, and I say that here too. That's the big difference that they both have. They play this really good control aspect to looking at it. They do this real thing they can play. I think this one's playing like this Salad, and the OCG is playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. It's playing like 13, 14 hand traps. It's that's what makes Salad good. It makes this really okay board, but the hand traps back it up and makes it really good because you don't know that when you're playing a deck against a deck, you don't know what's in their hand unless you obviously can see it. And because Salad is weaker, Thunder Dragons because Thunder Dragons are weaker, Salad has more success in my opinion. Don't quote me on that. I may not be 100% right, but I think that's how it works. And obviously, you have Thunder Dragon and Sky Striker. Those are decks. But when you compare that to the TCG, our best deck in theory over here would be, if you look at Postal Turning Code, is in a lot of players' opinions, would be Dinos. Dinos isn't on here because obviously they have Max C. Dragon Link isn't on here because I believe they have 2 of the Guard Dragons banned. There's that. You have Invoke Shaddolls, which doesn't really see a lot of its success. I wouldn't really, if I was, it doesn't see success there because obviously, again, Maxi, but also they already have Invoked Dragoons, which is better. It does more with less, I guess, going through less. It doesn't have to use as many resources as the Shaddol variant does. Salad, best control deck in my opinion for both. If you're comparing it to the other one, even though I think Eldridge is really good, I think it does have a problem with Salads. Like when you start playing a grind game with Salad, it's really hard because one wrong play can really mess you up, which is like a problem. I think Eldridge is good. I think it's really good. I just think it's gotten too much hype here in the TCG. And when you look at the TCG to the OCG, our best deck is like it's not on there. And then like we're in like another category. And then like if you want to say another deck is like Eldridge, you could say that, but that's like 6, 7 decks down the line. So it's not really popular there because they have better things. We're here. We have obviously Dino, Dragon Link, Shaddol Invoked, Salads, Eldridge, Altergeist, Endymion, and Emancipators. And when you start to get to when you get to the let's see here. So when you get to the TCG in theory, from the PPG this weekend, they had a top 8, and half of their top 8 was half of their top 8 was mostly Eldridge. And with that, okay. So So yeah, as I was saying, half of their top eight. I mean, sorry. When you go to the PPG, half of their top eight was really interesting. Or when you look at the PPG's top eight, so I think yes, 50% was Eldridge. One was an invoked variant. Another one was another deck was Dragon Link, Altergeist, Emancipators that ended up getting first, and I believe Endymion, if I didn't say that yet. But in the finals, I believe it was Cody Angelov's list versus Pendulum, which got I'm sorry, Endymion, Pendulums, yeah, same thing. They they both ended up, and I said this that if you sleep on the two, they can sneak up on you. So we're just gonna take a close little dive into both of their lists here, so you all can have them for the time being. So I'm just gonna show you them. Here's Cody's list. It's I was watching him test it on stream. It seems about right. When it goes off, it's very explosive. I believe he ends on Herald of Art Light. He can end on a Herald of Art Light, a Tornado, or a Dweller, an Appaloosa, and an IP, and like the Synchro and the Spader, which is like really good. Also, by the way, if you want to check out their interviews or deck files or get a real into depth, I believe Pack is he's uploading their interviews, because I know he did it on his stream and stuff like that. If you look at another deck like Endymion, it also has this same way of it. It's kind of a beatdown deck, but it really does a great job of controlling you. It's not build a board. It's more like beat down and oppression more than it's like, oh, if you break my board, I don't lose. Like, that's how this style of the deck of it goes. And obviously you have Dragon Link, really good. It's Dragon Link. I don't know what to say. They end on like a Herald, a Savage. The Abomination. Every time you draw a monster, you can go the full combo again, and they have a Soul Charge and stuff like that. Deck's really good. And then you obviously have Eldritch. We know what Eldritch does at this point. There's so many variants of it. He does a really good job of going first. Elise, I know she was talking about, sorry, I think I might have said the name wrong, but the person who got top 4 with the Eldritch deck, I know she said on stream, she was talking about possibly playing a going second list. So she said she was leaning to that in the future to see how that goes. Other Eldritch was invoked. Excuse me. Other Eldritch was invoked, and you had a Mayakashi Eldritch. I think those are really interesting. The Alter guys. I was saying this before that. Altergeist is, and I always say this, like, I always said, like, if you want to consider style of control deck, you can, but if you don't, Altergeist is like fighting for the second best spot along Guru and Trap Tricks when that time comes. So that's going to be an interesting one. And yeah, that's it, guys. You all have a great day and stay safe.